My name is Casco Zero Vlogs, and today we are going to be watching and reacting to Mia Khalifa giving women marriage advice. All right, so what we're going to watch the video, and then I'm going to talk on key points after we watch the video to tell you guys why she's right or wrong. So without further ado, let's get into the video right now.
Maniac for that trap street.
Stats. Baby girl doesn't know that I am Tom Brady at this game. Married at 18, divorced at 21. Second marriage, married at 25, divorced at 28. Third engagement, engaged at 29, ended it at 30, but I kept the ring. I'm still keeping Tom Brady on his toes. We should not be afraid to leave these men. We are not stuck with these people. Marriage is not a sanctimonious thing. It is paperwork. It's something, it's a commitment you make to someone. But if you feel like you're not getting anything from that commitment and you're trying, you gotta go. You gotta go. You have to go. I know it's difficult to fill out paperwork and to make appointments and to do all of these things, but this is your life. Do you want to be stuck with someone? Period. Do you want to be stuck with someone? Married at 18, divorced at 21. Second.
It's a little funny though, right? So she compares Tom Brady's accolades to her failures, right? She's like, he does this great, and I do this really bad in comparison. It's a little humorous the way she's bragging about her failures, because a woman that can't keep a guy is the equivalent of a guy who can't get a girl, right? Because it's easy for women to get attention and sex, but it's really hard for a woman to get actual substantial guy to have a good relationship with. So she's the equivalent of like the basement dweller guy, right? And it's just so funny to me that she's like trying to use this like a bragging thing, like, yeah, I had a bunch of marriages. Like if you're, and I'm just gonna be 100, if you're like 30, I don't even say 35, all right? I'll say 35, you're 30, no, I'm gonna be generous, all right? I'm gonna be generous. If you're 40, okay? I'm gonna be as generous as possible. If you're 40, and you're not married, you're literally a loser. If you're a woman and you're 40, you're not married, you're literally a loser. It doesn't matter what you accomplish, nobody cares. Honestly, I think if you're 30 and not married, to be 100, my personal opinion, if you're 30 and not married, you're a loser. But I'm gonna try to be a little bit more realistic in the modern day and age. If you're 40 and not married, you're a loser, all right? That's truly, that's the fact. Well, I believe 30, but realistically 40. You're literally a loser. You're a female loser. You're the equivalent of a basement dweller, chip eating, masturbating, fat dude. Yes, he has to be fat, who watches porn all day, or simps to the TikTok or TikToks and the Twitch stream pool party girls. All right, you're that you're literally the female version of that. If you're not married, at least by 30.
Marriage. Married at 25, divorced at 28. Third engagement, engaged at 29, ended it at 30, but I kept the ring. I'm still keeping Tom Brady on his toes.
You know, I think that women that realize, I say, if your first marriage doesn't work out, stuff happens, right? But if your second marriage doesn't work out, the woman's like 9.5 times out of 10 the problem, and then on the third time she's the problem. Something's wrong with her. Like if it's a chick and she's not married by at least 30, honestly guys, if she's not married by 30 or had at least a super long relationship by the age of 30, something's wrong with her. And it's obvious that something's wrong with Mia Khalifa because, well, you guys know her background, right? She was used up, thrown around, crying about it, but then she's telling guys, yo, or she's telling like her female followers, yes, I'm using air quotations, because we know most of our guys, that you shouldn't get married. That's literally just retarded at that point. That's so incredibly stupid. Like, oh yeah, follow my footsteps, but then she openly said how miserable she is. Why would anyone do that?
We should not be afraid to leave these men. We are not stuck with these people.
You know, and then the next part that she says, you should not be afraid to leave the guy. I think a lot of people don't truly understand what marriage is, right? It's like the ultimate commitment, right? It isn't about being happy all the time. It isn't about like, oh, romance and flowers and this the American dream is like the ultimate commitment, right? So you make a commitment where you're like, okay, no matter what happens, you need to pick the person that you're willing to do this for. That's the most important thing. People get married to people they shouldn't get married to because they're like, oh, I want to be happy. Like marriage isn't about happiness. It's just a very like the biggest commitment you can make. Like you're saying, okay, I love this person enough where no matter what happens, they're worth it to me that I'll do this for this person, right? And the other person has to be the same way back, right? It's a two-way street. You're doing a bunch of stuff and she sucks, then it won't work. And if she's doing a bunch of stuff and he sucks, it won't work. It has to be a two-way street. And I think a lot of people, especially back then, like women, they truly understood like male dynamics, right? So they'll be like, okay, a guy's gonna do what guys gonna do, so I'm gonna deal with it. And the guy's like, okay, I know my woman's crazy, but a woman's gonna do what a woman's gonna do. So I think that like they understood that. That's why no one got a divorce back then. But nowadays, especially nowadays, women are just like, oh, happiness, me, 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 me. And marriage isn't about yourself. It's a commitment to the other person, right? And everybody has the roles they have to do. So I think it's very, very stupid that a lot of people are like, oh, leave. Like I don't believe in divorce. There's no such thing as divorce. Oh, leave. Like, and go where? To who? What's going to be different about the next person? Truly, what's going to be different about the next person? Now you have to learn this person again. Now you have to get all new history. Now you waste all this time. It's just not worth it. Like, when you get married, you find that one person, right? You're like, okay, this is the person. And then whatever is lacking or different in that marriage, you and your wife or you and your husband should discuss that and work that out specifically in that marriage. All marriages don't have to be the exact same way. It's about ultimately having an understanding. And most chicks are just selfish is what it boils down to. Most chicks are so selfish, like me, 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 me. I'm not happy. It's me, 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 right? And that's really isn't what marriage is about. Shouldn't be stay for the kids, it should be the two people that originally got married working out their problems together and then making it work. That's like literally what marriage is about. Is literally the ultimate commitment.
Is not a sanctimonious thing. It is paperwork. It's something. It's a commitment you make to someone. But if you feel like you're
so she just said that, right? It's like commitment you make to someone, right? So if you make a commitment, you cannot go back on that commitment, right? For example, if you sign a lease or you sign like paperwork, you sign a contract and say, okay, I'm gonna get a loan for a house, and then I'm gonna get a loan for a house, and then you have to pay that house back, right? So you can't just say, oh, I don't want the house anymore, I'm gonna leave. You still have to pay for the house. Same thing with a car. You get what I'm saying? Like you can't. It's a commitment. You can't just say, oh, I'm out. It's over. That's literally stupid. That's so dumb that I cannot comprehend the level of stupidity you have to be like, oh, well, I'm not happy. I'm gonna leave and go where, right? Even with a house, let's say you got your dream house. Oh, I don't want this house anymore, and get what other house? Unless you're trying to make money off of the house, like you're just gonna live in another house and it's gonna be the same thing. You're gonna have dirt. You're gonna have wood on top of the dirt, and you're gonna have your house on top of the wood. It's the same thing. Same thing with people. I don't think a lot of women truly think about it. They're like, oh, I'm happy. It's me, 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 me. I'm not gonna settle. And that isn't what marriage is about. I think guys have a better concept of what marriage is. It's just the women are like this. They're taking advice from chicks like this, where it's like, oh, just a piece of paper. Like have some honor. I know women don't have honor. I know I'm asking for too much. You say vows, right? And whether you believe in God or not, right? I'll just put it in the religious term, and then I'll say, in the modern term. You stand before God and say vows, right? Or, more importantly, you stand before yourself and say vows that you promise to do something. And if you break that promise, you can't even keep a promise to yourself. So virtually, when you get married, right, and you say a promise, you're literally saying a promise to yourself and a promise to that person. So if you can't keep a promise to yourself, how can you do anything else in life, right? If you can't do something as keep a promise as what you say in your vows. A lot of people don't truly understand it. They literally stand before the other person, right? You promise to stay there when they're annoying, they get maybe not fat, but annoying, right? Do you basically say if they're annoying, will you stay there, right? If they get fat, will you help them out when they get fat, right? If they get sick, will you help out when they get sick? Are you going to still stick around when they're healthy, right? Basically, all things that are going to help them overcome their obstacles, for both people. And will you be there when they're down? So ultimately what the vows are, right? And I think that is the main thing that you're making a promise to, right? And that's why I say the two-way street. If a person becomes a drug addict and they don't promise to do what they promise, then it's a problem, right? But if two people are doing what they're supposed to do, and it's not about happiness, then I truly believe that there isn't a reason for divorce. And that's why it's really important where you have to choose who you get married to. Because if you with somebody who can't keep a promise, then it won't work, right? But you didn't promise to be happy. That's not in the vows. You didn't promise to say, oh, I'm happy. That was never the promise. The promise is that you will stick with this person and help them through obstacles. That is the promise that you make. And so long as the other person's doing that, and then you're doing that, then there's no reason to get a divorce, right? So I think that a lot of women specifically are like, oh, well, I'm going to go to the next person, and the next person will do the same thing the other person did. 9 times out of 10. Because most women get divorced because they're not happy or money, ultimately, right? So, or they just want to steal money too. That's another thing. But that's a whole nother story. But statistically speaking, it's due to money and they're not happy.
From that commitment and you're trying, you gotta go. You gotta go. You have to go. I know it's difficult to fill out paperwork and to make appointments and to do all.
She said if you're not getting anything out of that commitment, you have to go. Do you see how selfish that sounds, right? If you're not getting anything out of that commitment, what is the commitment that you made? You're not, that's the whole thing. You're not trying to get something out of the commitment. You make a commitment to what you made a commitment to, right? You didn't say, oh, I'm making a commitment that you have to do this and that, right? That isn't the commitment. That isn't what marriage is about, right? Originally, a marriage was like to combine forces for like the kings and queens back then, but in more moderate times, right? You're still joining forces with that person. And how it's supposed to go is like where you lack, she comes in and vice versa, right? But the commitment isn't supposed to be like, oh, let me get something out of this. You're not getting married to get something out of it, right? You're getting married because you care about this person so much that you're saying, okay, you're above the rest of the bitches, right? You're above the rest of them. So I'm gonna make this commitment to you so you can know that you're above all the chicks. Because really, marriage is for chicks, ultimately, right? Marriage is mainly for chicks. So you're saying, hey, you're the rest of all the bimbos, and you're special, right? That's just what it's about. But the chick is, ultimately she's doing the same thing, but marriage is ultimately for chicks. But chicks don't really understand it. Like when they get married, it's like, oh, well, they just care about like the, the reception? The party, ultimately, right? They just care about the party. Like, oh, look at me in my white dress. I look pretty. And after that, they're like, I don't care about the marriage anymore. That's the majority of chicks are waiting for. Like, oh, yeah, look at me, guys. And it just shows the very nature of a wedding is because like, oh, I'm better than you chicks. Because women know that deep down inside, they're supposed to be married because that's like, that shows their value, right? Like, oh, a guy, I got the ultimate commitment from a guy. That's what it is. Oh, I got the ultimate commitment from a guy. Something else that I thought was really funny. It shows how lazy women are. Check this out.
To make appointments and to do all of these things, paperwork and to make appointments and to do all.
She said, I know you don't want to fill out paperwork and make appointments. Let's just say someone was really getting beaten and abused, right? That isn't hard for them. To her, a commitment is she can't do a commitment, make a promise so much. She's so lazy where it's like, oh yeah, doing the paperwork. Doing the paperwork, right? Making appointments is literally, from her perspective, the biggest obstacle to get around. Not the commitment, right? That's like, oh man, yeah, I'm gonna go to somebody else and get used up more because that, you guys get what I'm saying though? It's like, there's such not a problem within the relationship that the biggest problem from her perspective is the paperwork and the appointments. Like I'm telling you guys, women are just lazy, man.
Of these things, but this is your life. Do you want to be stuck with someone?
Last thing she says, do you want to be stuck with someone? What else is there to do? other than be stuck with someone. Like realistically speaking here, right? You can have your fair share of chicks, but even guys get tired of having sex with a bunch of chicks. They always want to get like lock down a chick, so to speak, or a chick wants to lock down them. Ultimately, guys and girls want a long-term relationship. Ultimately, right? That's what we're designed for, long-term relationships. If you're not gonna get stuck down with someone that you can really talk to, laugh with, like have your best friend, that's not a guy, right? The dynamic of like feminine and masculine combined into one, which is marriage. What else is there? What is there to do? Like, realistic. If you guys can tell me, you guys agree with her. I honestly want to know what else is there to do, other than going go on trips and all this fun stuff with like the person you know who deserves it, right? So it's like I was really trying to comprehend. You don't want to be stuck with someone. What else is there to do? Really? Like I really genuinely want to know that. If anyone agrees with her, I'm not even being sarcastic here. I seriously want to know, okay, I'm stuck with this person. I know this person isn't a psychopath. I know this person isn't a murderer. I know this person is in my best interest, right? Because the person you should marry. That's the standard. Don't marry a chick because she's hot. So, okay, this chick got my bag, blah, blah, blah. I want to be stuck with her. Because you're gonna want a chick again eventually, and the chick's gonna want a guy again eventually. So why not be stuck with the person that you know who has your back and who deserves your time, right? Like I'm really trying to make this make sense. That's so dumb and so dysfunctional. That's literally mental illness, like in raw form is what she's doing. You don't want to be stuck with somebody. Just keep getting used up. Keep getting a bunch of marriages. Just really think about that. That is so bizarre to me. But yeah, man, that's my take on this. I think that marriage is a very sacred thing. I don't think you should get married to anybody. I do believe in like only getting married once. If you get a divorce, don't ever get married again. As a guy, at least, this is my opinion. You don't have to listen to me. But I just think a guy, if it doesn't work out, she leaves, don't ever get married again. Because you wasted too much time. You can have a long-time relationship, but marriage is for chicks. If that one chick didn't work out, it's not even worth it. Right? Because if the chick doesn't take care of herself the first time, you're lucky. Right? But that's how it should be. You should get a chick who shouldn't take all your stuff. But I'm just saying, you're lucky. Right? So that's my personal opinion. But as a chick, you're the problem. If you keep getting the divorce, you're the problem, ultimately. Because you're like, oh, I got divorced 5 times. A guy hears that, he's like, what's wrong with you? If a chick hears that, she's like, oh, okay, maybe this didn't work out. Right? Because chicks know. Like, they know, man. But I don't want to ramble too long. This is literally a 1-minute clip that I'm probably making this a 10-minute video. I'm really trying to make my videos like 8 minutes long. Mia Khalifa, do you guys disagree with her? Are you guys still watching her get her back busted open on Pornhub? Let me know in the comments below. But that's going to be it for the video. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. Help me get my video out there in this jungle that we call YouTube. No lightning. Without further ado, that's going to be it for the video. Remember, I'm not arrogant. I'm just confident. And thank you for watching. I like your